Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders. He kidnapped women, mutilated them, and kept their heads as trophies. And while he sat on death row, he received thousands of love letters from women who had never met him, women who wanted to marry him. One of them did. We want to call those women crazy, damaged, broken, naive. But one was a nurse, one was a college professor, one was a licensed therapist. What happened to them is not a story about weakness. It's a story about a specific set of psychological weapons. So effective, they work even when you know what you're dealing with. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how charm becomes a predatory tool, because the same mechanics are used by people you will never see on the news, people you probably already know. How do you receive love letters for murder? The instinctive answer is that the women were deluded, attention-seeking, or broken in some way that made them attracted to danger. The research says something more uncomfortable. Dr. Anna Salter, forensic psychologist with 30 years studying sexual predators, concluded that the most dangerous predators are not the ones who look dangerous. They are the ones who look safe. Ted Bundy was described by people who knew him as warm, funny, politically ambitious, and exceptionally helpful. He volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline. He was praised by the hotline's director, a woman named Anne Rule, who later wrote the most famous book about him, because she had no idea. This is the first thing to understand. Charm is not a personality trait. In predators, it is a skill, practiced, refined, deployed with intention, and the brain is not equipped to detect the difference. In 1941, psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley published The Mask of Sanity, the first clinical description of what we now call psychopathy. The title tells you everything. The mask is not the disorder. The mask is the presentation. Cleckley described patients who were articulate, socially confident, emotionally expressive, who showed zero signs of the inner emptiness that defined them. Most people misunderstand psychopathy. It is not anger, it is not aggression, it is not visible. It is the absence of something: guilt, shame, empathy, fear of consequences. A non-psychopathic person who wants to manipulate you has a problem. They feel bad about it. That discomfort leaks in micro-expressions, hesitation, inconsistency. A psychopath has no such problem. Brain imaging studies show that when psychopaths process emotional words, love, pain, fear, loss, the limbic system shows almost no activation. They understand emotions like a foreign language studied in school, intellectually, without feeling it, and that makes them exceptional at performing it. The women who wrote to Bundy were not falling for a lie they couldn't see through. Many of them knew he was guilty. They had read the trial transcripts. They had seen the evidence. So why? Psychologists call it hybristophilia, attraction to people who have committed serious crimes. But that label doesn't explain the mechanism. The mechanism is this: Bundy was exceptionally good at making each person feel like they were the exception. In court, he represented himself, articulate, composed, even funny, holding the gaze of women in the gallery in a way that felt deeply personal. This is a documented manipulation technique called manufactured intimacy, the feeling, not the reality, of a unique connection, and the brain cannot easily distinguish between the two. When you feel seen by someone, really seen, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical released between a mother and a newborn child. It doesn't ask for credentials first. Dr. Robert Hare, who created the standard psychopathy checklist, put it plainly: psychopaths are social predators who charm, manipulate, and ruthlessly plow their way through life. And that charm is not random. It is targeted at your specific need. There is a cognitive bias that made Ted Bundy more dangerous than his crimes alone. It's called the halo effect, first documented by psychologist Edward Thorndike in 1920. When we perceive one strong positive trait in a person, we unconsciously assume other positive traits follow. He's attractive, so he must be kind. He's articulate, so he must be honest. He's successful, so he must be safe. Bundy was physically attractive, well-dressed, and educated. His own lawyer said, "If you lined up 10 men in a room, he's the last one you'd pick." John Wayne Gacy threw parties for his neighbors. Jeffrey Dahmer's co-workers described him as quiet and polite. BTK, Dennis Rader, was president of his church congregation. The halo effect doesn't just make us miss warning signs, it makes us explain them away. Contradictions get rationalized, red flags get reframed. He's intense, but that's just passion. He said something strange. But he was probably just tired. Sound familiar? It should, because this happens in relationships every day, not with serial killers, with people who hurt people quietly, people who never make the news. Here's the part that changes everything. In his final interview, 24 hours before his execution, Bundy was asked how he selected his victims. He said, "I don't feel guilty for anything. I feel sorry for people who feel guilt." But then, he said something researchers found more revealing. He said he could identify vulnerable targets by the way they moved, by the way they scanned a room, by the specific type of eye contact they made. He wasn't guessing. He was reading. Psychopaths, high-functioning ones, develop an almost clinical ability to read social cues. Not because they care about people, because reading people is how they hunt. A 2011 study showed that psychopaths could identify people with traumatic histories simply by watching them walk. Not by talking to them, by watching them walk. The most dangerous predators are not loud. They are quiet, watching, choosing. So, what does this actually mean for your life? Not every manipulative person is a serial killer. That's almost never the threat. The threat is the same psychology, scaled down. The coworker who makes everyone love them while systematically destroying careers. The partner who makes you feel uniquely understood, then uses that understanding against you. The warning signs are the same. Charm that feels too immediate, too targeted, too perfect. A connection that escalates unusually fast. A pattern where your doubts get explained away, by them or by you. The most important signal, the feeling that you are the exception, that you alone truly understand them. That feeling is not intimacy, it is a hook. The research is consistent across 80 years of forensic psychology. The single most effective protection is not suspicion. It is slowing down. Because manufactured intimacy requires speed. The moment you pause, the mechanism begins to fail. Bundy was executed in 1989. The morning he died, hundreds of people gathered outside the prison, some to celebrate, some to mourn. Two different responses to the same man, both driven by the same psychological machinery. The only difference was what information they let in and when.